It's up presenters, I'm Red Joey, and today we're talking about Greninja. Greninja is a Stage 2 Pokemon that was given to us during our XY base set, and I can already see that people are... And I've already noticed that there's a bit of a divide between how people believe Greninja should be played. I've personally seen both sides of the argument for this. There's those who think that Greninja isn't really up to much. It's a case of, oh well, it can be used as a 101 tech in Keldeo Blastoise. Mostly just so you can drop that 1 energy, put 30 damage on something, and you don't have to use Hypnotoxic or Verbank for your extra 30 damage. It's basically just a replacement for Hypnotoxic and Verbank without removing Hypnotoxic and Verbank. Whereas I've also seen people turn around and say, hey, that Greninja doesn't look too bad, I'm considering running Quad Greninja. And yeah, I can see how that works. As a Stage 2, it attacks for 1 energy and it can manipulate damage on the board. In potential, it's a powerful card. Now, I'm going to actually point out the downsides of Greninja to start with, and then I'm going to actually talk up each one. I'll start with the 101 idea. The one thing I have against that is the whole idea that people are saying 101 in Keldeo Blastoise. And the big problem I'm having there is the whole fact that it's 101. Keldeo Blastoise already turns around and says, we're running a 403 line of Blastoise. We already pretty much depend on rare candy. Adding another 101 means that if you want to go for like Greninja tech, you rely on candy even more than you used to. I'm not saying that, it won't happen, I'm just saying that it doesn't sound as consistent as it could be. Right now, Keldeo Blastoise, a lot of lists are incredibly tight, incredibly consistent. Adding this 101 and adding basically another card that's reliant on rare candy, to me basically turns around and says that it could knock your consistency slightly. Also, running 101, you stand I think it's a 20% chance of actually prizing one of the pieces, so your Froakie or your Greninja could be prized. And it's a 20% chance, that's 1 game in 5. With all of that said though, I can see where the logic is coming from. I can see the whole value of a deck that likes to have a lot of energy in hand, likes to actually be able to expend that energy quickly and then recover it whenever it needs to. I can see a huge value in that. Going for the 101 Greninja means that there are times when you don't have to rely on Black Kyurem. You could just go, here's Keldeo, here's some energy, drop 1 energy for a Water Shuriken to do 30 damage, punch through something. You don't have to go Black Ballista, throw away 3 energy. You can now just put 1 in the discard pile. It's just a way of making the deck slightly more economical. Even if you aren't relying on Water Shuriken to actually get you a KO this turn, you can still afford to drop a Water Energy, put 30 damage onto something on the bench, and then you're able to set up future KOs for your mid to late game. It's a good tech to have, it's just that whole 0 in the middle I'm kind of wary of. I would prefer the idea of running a 1-1-1 line. That way you don't depend on rare candy, and it's a case of even if you do hit the candy, you can still go for your Stage 1. You can still turn around and say, well, here's Squirtle, candy into Blastoise, make Froakie into a Frogadier. Next turn I can just switch out the Greninja or draw into it. And personally, I can see Greninja being a huge, invaluable tool in Keldeo Blastoise. I'm just not sure if 101 is the right option. And now let's talk about Quad Greninja. Now, personally, this is the deck I want to be a thing, but I can see one issue with Quad Greninja, and that's mostly the fact that, well, Quad Greninja could just be another Garchomp Altaria. Back at the beginning of last format, a lot of people did hype Garchomp Altaria alongside Darkrai Hydreigon. And with good reason. The one thing that Garchomp Altaria manages to do is set up. The deck sets up incredibly well, it's what it's built to do. There's one huge problem with that though. It doesn't do anything with its setup. It sets up the board, and then that's it. Sure, I mean, you've got Garchomp, it's attacking for 1 energy, it does 60 damage, gets rid of special energies, and you've got Altaria boosting that damage. The major problem was though, it didn't really have any real staying power. It wasn't a big powerhouse, and just tapping away for between 60 and 80, sometimes 90 if you got the third Altaria and didn't mind spending the bench space for it. You wouldn't really be getting as far through the game as you wanted. Your biggest competition was Darkrai, which did a very stable 90 and 30 to something on your bench. It was able to set up future KOs. It was able to set up future KOs very easily. It was able to actually apply and push for more pressure than Garchomp Altaria could. Greninja I can see being a very similar situation. It could be a case of, yeah, it's not resisted by anything. It always is guaranteed to do that 50. You can boost it up to 70 using Choice Band. I'm really hoping though that Greninja's Water Shuriken, that ability to drop 1 energy and place 3 damage counters somewhere, I'm hoping that that's actually the game changer for Greninja. It's the whole fact that, even though it looks a lot like Garchomp, but the whole fact is a stage 2 attacks for 1 energy, does moderate damage, I'm really hoping that Water Shuriken turns around and says, I can actually manipulate damage on the board better. I can do that one thing that Garchomp couldn't do. Garchomp was always just, here's some upfront damage. There you go. Whereas Greninja can do the upfront damage and weaken stuff on the bench. It can start making magic numbers try and happen. Also the whole fact that with Greninja you have to set up your stage 2 line, not a stage 2 and a stage 1. So your early game setup shouldn't be as intensive with Greninja as it was with Garchomp. Garchomp past turn 2 or 3 set itself up, but Greninja shouldn't really need that. Another downside that I'm seeing to Greninja is just the whole fact that it's Greninja on its own. I think this is actually another weakness that Garchomp might have had. There was no backup attacker. Now, I'm not saying that Greninja doesn't have a backup attacker. It's just that finding one that's perfect for him isn't just a case of snap your fingers, there it is. There are a few options out there. I was personally toying with the idea of Tornadus Hex. Why was I thinking Tornadus Hex? It's got decent hit points, it can survive a hit or two, plus with you investing very little energy into Greninja, you can basically afford to manually load up Tornadus. Also, combining Tornadus' ability to do 60 with Blow Through if you have a Stadium in play, and the Water Shuriken, 30-90 damage. Over 2 turns, that's 180. You're able to actually deal with opposing X's. There is actually another option that Greninja has, and it's actually his own X. Now, we've not actually been given Greninja X yet, but that's mostly because even though we were given the half deck cards, Greninja X and Chestnut X are both promo cards. I'll cover Chestnut X on another day, but right now let's look at Greninja X. Obviously, see, it's an X that has 170 hit points, retreat cost of 1, he's weak to grass and has 2 attacks. The first attack is Sharpshooting, which for 1 water energy allows you to do 30 damage to anything. And yeah, that should sound familiar because it's effectively Water Shuriken as an attack, except this can be affected by stuff like Eviolite. Next we have Aqua Blast, for 2 water and a colourless to 120 damage and discard energy. The major reason I'm looking at Greninja X here is just the whole fact that he has that Sharpshooting. It's a case of get Greninja X active, place 1 energy, start start shooting around for 30s. Now, to me, that's just basically a case of it's more damage manipulation. It's more setting up the board for you to sweep later. And to be fair, I think that this is probably Greninja's best partner. Taking this normal Greninja and combining it with the Greninja X for sharpshooting, you can start to manipulate damage on the board. You've got something that can take a hit or two. You also do have a lot of access to energy in this deck. It's already been noted in the past that we have energy retrieval, we've got super energy retrieval. So, picking up energies we discard, that's not a problem. We also do have Props Letter. Props Letter with Greninja is a bit of a godsend, to be honest. You get your Greninja, here's Props Letter, oh, I've got 2 energies in hand. Attach one to Greninja for his attack, drop the other one for Water Shuriken. Now, I do feel I should mention this deck's biggest failing though, and I mentioned it with the Greninja X. It's the whole fact that, well, Greninja and Greninja X are both weak to grass. Genesect Virizion is still a thing. That could be a huge stumbling block for Greninja. But to put this into perspective though, all the way through this format we've seen people try and use Garchomp Altaria. They've not had much success. That's why Garchomp Altaria hasn't become a bigger deck. But you'll still hear about a player here or there trying to make use out of it. You hear about it we've heard about it all last season across the states, where people are trying to make it work. People have actually had moderate luck with it. I can't see why Greninja itself can't be a similar story. In fact, with the right support, or if Genesect for some reason falls out of format, Greninja could step forward and at least try to make itself known. Also, right now, Greninja isn't overly hyped. Not everyone's playing it, so it could be a great deck for starters, for somebody who just wants to get into the game to start with. Using Greninja could be a good way to actually teach them different mechanics, actually teach them to think about their board state. Back when I wrote articles, I actually did an article about the whole ideas of running Rogue, and the whole fact that even if you do want to actually go into a tournament scene with a tier 1 deck, it's sometimes better to actually practice with Rogue decks for a bit. Just to change your mindset, just to get you in a different frame of mind. Make it so that the answers you had easily to you before aren't as easy access, so you have to think about how to get to them. Just basically keeping your mind in shape so you actually do achieve more with a high tier deck. Maybe Greninja could be that Rogue. It could be the deck where you turn around, you practice with it, you push for it. Not because you think it will win, but because you're actually practicing with a lower tier deck, so that when you're using a higher tier deck, you still keep thinking, you're still in that Rogue mindset with a high tier deck. Then it could give you a mental edge. But with all of that said, I'm going to actually shut up for now and let you guys say what you want to say. What do you think about Greninja? Do you think it's okay? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's trash? As always, let me know down below. And until next time, I've been Writer Joey. You guys are top percent. Peace out.